Hello everyone, my name is Skylar Boshin and I'm the author of Flickering Lights, a memoir of rebuilding a shattered past. So my book is officially published. It's here and you can go order it on Amazon. You can also order it on my website. I will link those down below. And I could not be more excited about finally having my book, my story, my life out there to be able to help other survivors. If you don't know who I am a victim turned survivor turned advocate for survivors of sexual assault and sextortion and abuse. And my story started very early on. But watch the other videos if you'd like to learn a little bit more about my story. Or order my book. But today I want to go over the first chapter of Flickering Lights and why I decided that was going to be the title of my first chapter, which is Who is Chris Smith? So Chris Smith was my abuser, and I started my book with a memory, so I'll read that. A small child sits on a brown reclining chair. Her face is glum as she turns toward me. An old gray-haired man with a bulging stomach and a pipe starts to play with the child's hair. He twirls her blonde hair around his fingers and her entire body tenses. Now she's a bit older. Walking past the kitchen, she feels a sharp slap hit her bottom. Her bottom burns. She turns to see the same man smiling at her. Her hair has gone from light blonde to light brunette. She sits on a couch. This time the man lunges towards her, reaching to tickle her armpits. She struggles while laughing, but I know this isn't a happy laugh. He lifts up her shirt and tears form in her eyes. She is staring at an angel on the bathroom wall as the doorknob rattles. Then, the next part of the chapter starts with lurching up from a nightmare. I ran to the bathroom with sweat dripping down my body. So, it's a repressed memory coming back into the forefront of my mind. Something that I experienced when I was a very young child. That I repressed, that was triggered, and I began to remember all these horrible things that happened to me as a child when I was about 15 years old. So from there, the story starts with me being 15 years old and starting to learn what I went through as a child and starting to remember those horrible experiences. In chapter 1, Who is Chris Smith, I really dive into who is he? How do I know him? Because when I first had those repressed memories come back up, there was this period of time where I couldn't figure out what his name was. That was totally flushed from my memory. I could picture his face, but for a long time, for a little while, I just couldn't remember his name. And so that's why I entitled that chapter, Who is Chris Smith? Because I think it's just very important and a big topic in my story. But after that, I kind of go into how I grew up, my hometown. I grew up in Situate, Massachusetts, and how my family was growing up, and just kind of diving into the beginning years of my life so that the reader can kind of get a sense of what I was experiencing abuse-wise, but also my family life at home, which felt safe, and kind of having that contrast. And then just all of these memories that were popping up in my mind as I was this child. But This chapter goes through a lot of abuse. I would say it can definitely be triggering, so err on the side of caution. If you are also a survivor yourself, know that there is a lot of triggering content that is in this book, because it is about my story of surviving childhood sexual abuse, sextortion, and college rape. So it is heavy, but I think it's necessary to talk about, and I think that not enough people really talk about it. Another part of chapter 1 that I really love is this one section that I'm going to read to you guys. My parents called it Skylar's World. They didn't understand that Skylar's World was me dissociating. Dissociating occurs when someone is triggered by something relating to a trauma they've experienced and zones out, sometimes even re-experiencing the trauma in their mind. At the time, no one in my family knew what that word meant, and nobody knew what was happening to me. I had an imaginary friend whom I named Sarah when I was young, and when I was being abused, I would unconsciously assign the abuse I went through as something happening to Sarah. It was almost like I was looking down at myself, watching my Graham and Chris abuse me, and my brain didn't let me believe I was the one being abused. Instead, I would attempt to comfort my imaginary friend, Sarah. And I think that just goes to show how powerful our mind is, how powerful our brains are to be able to deceive us in this way, to reduce the trauma and reduce the re-traumatization that we as humans experience so that we can survive. It's a coping mechanism that's just innately within us. And I think that's just such a interesting topic, and I think a lot of people wouldn't necessarily consider that. So I hope that this book gives some people some clarity around maybe what you've experienced, what someone in your family has experienced, or just gives you some insight into what a lot of people experience, whether you know it or not, right? Having that sense of you don't know what people won't share with you. If I was walking on the street and you didn't know me, you would never know that I'm an abuse survivor. So I think that really is a main message in my book. But chapter 1, Who is Chris Smith, is really geared towards educating, and also was allowing me to reflect on the trauma that I went through and the dissociation and the repressed memories and all of these things that guarded me, that protected me. So thank you guys so much, and I really hope that this book can reach you in some way or another. Go purchase it on Amazon or on my website, www.skylarbotion.com. Thank you guys so much, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.